Hello and welcome back to the PowerDrift podcast. I have Jehan with me. Jehan works for Zigwheels. In a sense, Jehan is from the same khet. He's the
Yes.
mooly from the same khet, if I can call it that.
Potato.
Potato, chalo, theek hai. But today, Jehan and I are going to talk about a couple of different topics. The second topic will obviously be covered in a different episode. So if you do not want to miss out on that, subscribe to the channel and keep an eye on the PowerDrift podcast. If you are listening to this in the audio format, we are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, pretty much everywhere. At the end of this podcast, we'll also give a song that we like. That's what we have started doing in
Okay.
all of our podcasts. But today's topic is really cool because it's something that we have been involved in ever since we started our careers.
Yeah.
And it's motorsports. And
Yeah.
we're not only going to talk about how we have seen motorsports, but
Yeah.
motorsports, how motorsports in India has shaped over the years and developed over the years and where we are today.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing that I want to ask is, do you remember the first time you were at a racetrack?
First time I remember, I was doing a freelance work for this local newspaper in Pune called Sakar Times, the English version of it. My Marathi is not that great, but yeah. So I was writing a little bit of auto content for them. And I was 20 years old or something. And Honda had invited media people out to experience their CBR 250R on the racetrack.
2013.
2013. And this was the One Make Cup bike. So it was an experiential thing, not a race or anything of the sort. So I got utterly humiliated by some of the journals because I thought I was fast and Lavasa mein sab fast hote hai. But racetrack is where you know where you stand. Okay. But even prior to going to a racetrack, my first memory of a motorsport event is a motocross event. Okay. So Pune, if you guys don't know it, India's first internationally certified world championship was not Formula One at BIC, was the Rodel Cup. I hope, Dad, that's the right one. Is the Rodel Cup in 1980s, early 1980s, brought to the country by my dad, and it was held right here in Pune at the Nehru Stadium.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay. Motocross as general has been quite a popular sport in this part of the country, and so ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old, I have gone to motocross meets. I have seen a lot of dirt action, and that is my first memory of motorsports as such. Yeah.
Awesome. Motorsports, even I think PowerDrift back in the day used to do a lot of co-created content with TVS. So we used to cover their races both actually in 3 different formats. So it was track racing, which is INMRC, then it was rally, which is INRC, and then the Supercross Championship as well. So I got a chance to experience pretty much everything. I got to go to like some really cool locations where rallies took place, like Chikmagalur and Mysore and stuff like that. I also got to see some really cool supercross action.
Yeah.
So on the outskirts of Coimbatore near the airport, different locations.
Yeah.
Nashik was, I think, one location. But track racing in general has evolved substantially.
Yeah.
Like if you see Madras International Circuit is what it's called now, MIC. We know it as MMRT. Yeah.
MMRT.
Yeah. And MMRT, just as a track, just as infrastructure, has developed so much.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't even remember seeing pits. Like the brick building that is there as pits. It was nothing when we used to cover it.
I literally remember the first time in 2013 when I had gone, I was sweating like a pig. And this is even though I'm standing in front of a giant, massive fan, it's just too hot. Because at that point in time, it was thin walls, if you could call them that, and patras.
Patras, yeah, correct.
Literally patras.
Asbestos roofing.
And I am getting flustered. I'm getting tired. This is my first time. And then I see the racer. They are just walking around,
Like
chill and lazily. And to see 10 years of evolution of the MMRT itself is a big step up, right? So not only has the pit infrastructure improved, it's also to do with the race control. It's also to do with the level of safety that is involved at the track. Earlier, MMRT was notoriously famous for having ditches in its gravel traps or the runoff areas where you used to find cobras and snakes. So if a rider crashed, he used to either, instead of running onto the runoff area, he used to either run to the marshal post or run back onto the track because that was the safest part. So from there to now, it's seen a massive improvement. And now they also have a small secondary pit area. So all in all, that track has seen the most action when it comes to motorsports. And it's so good to see that Indian motorsports is getting that boost. But it's still not quite the boost that we require.
Yeah, in fact, even Kari Motor Speedway for that matter, just seeing another building pop up on the other side of the track next to race control. And maybe the pits need to improve, but then there's another building that's popped up on the far end at the start of the, at the end of the pit lane.
Correct.
So things are improving. It's just a slow process. And I just want to say one thing like very clearly, that motorsports is not a hobby. It's an actual sport. I mean, people go on to become the who's who of motorsports. Unfortunately, in India, it's a process. It's slow, but you have seen talent from India on the international stage, not just on the track, but at the Dakar as well, for that matter.
And that is where I feel the boost which we require is not enough. And it's not just the riders, this thing, it's also to do with the organizers, right? So I'm not only talking about two-wheelers, I'm also talking about four-wheelers, because when I started my journalism career, it wasn't as a motorcycle writer or anything. I started as a motorsport writer. Okay. So at Evo, I spent 2.5 years just writing race reports and obviously growing my motorsport skills and motorcycling skills as such. But motorsports is where I saw. But the fact of the matter is, in those 2.5, 3 years, and still to this date, neither have the cars evolved to another stage, neither have the talents grown and gone to the scales which they should have gone to, neither has the manufacturers been involved. Like you remember, Volkswagen Polo Cup, Vento Cup, Amio Cup, whatever cup is there, even that's now almost dead, right? The Formula cars which we are running in India are running Maruti, Swift, or those engines. And
like the older setups.
What sort of this thing are we going to provide once those, say, a young driver who is just fresh out of karting, he comes to Formula racing, and how is he able to go to compete against people who are, say, forget even Europe or America, against Southeast Asia? Same with motorcycling. We are racing with 165s. 165s is our premier national championship.
Yeah.
Really?
The one make. Not the one make. The group Bs.
No, Group C now, because
Group C. Yeah. Okay.
165 is your premier class.
Yeah. But those are really good 165s. Like souped up.
But 165 should have evolved. 165 was still 10 years ago. It's still the premier class. Why isn't the 300, 400, which is right now the pro stock?
Yeah.
Why isn't that gaining the most, say, traction? Why aren't more manufacturers getting up? You can only see TVS in it, right?
Yeah.
And TVS, to their credit, they are the only two-wheeler manufacturer who puts the money where their mouth is and proves that they can make race machines and they can sell those race machines.
And I think that is where I want to give TVS a lot more credit, because a lot of their testing actually happens by racers at a racetrack. They take in information, they take in feedback, and they get a product. And you actually see that feeling on a road-going product as well.
Except for one bike, but
which is the?
Ronin.
Haan, theek hai, chalo. But that's where I think manufacturers should be given credit. On the flip side, it also involves a lot of cost. Yeah. I mean, motorsports will drain your pocket, period. I mean, even if you want to, say, become a supercross rider, okay? Your helmet, your gear, your armor, your boots, your gloves, your knee brace, your neck brace, that is your primary gear, safety. Then you spend money on travel. Then you spend money on stay. Then you spend money on food. All of those things combined, and the prize money, if you're really talented and if you end up winning, say, a race, the prize money is not the best return on investment.
Obviously.
So that is why, in some ways, it becomes a hobby more than a sport. Because if I am 18 or 20, I see a supercross race happening in my locality, and I get intrigued and I say I'm going to participate in the next one. I get an experience of it, maybe win
Yeah.
some, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, if you really want to get into motorsports, if you're 5, 6, 7 is when you have to start. That's the process that happens in Europe. And that's where most of the talent is actually coming out from. Like a Pedrosa, a Lorenzo, a Quartararo, a Marquez. They've been on motorcycles since they were 5, 6. Obviously competing in smaller championships, but
Yeah.
they get to a national level by the time they are 10 or 12.
But you see the names that you've listed out, okay?
Yeah.
All of them have been part of young training schools and grassroots level motorsports. Okay, where is that in India?
Hmm.
Okay, right. We had a good grassroots level karting competition, but that is very almost non-existent now.
What
Okay.
was it called?
The JK Tire go-karting
Karting,
national
okay.
championship,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So that's almost non-existent now.
Hmm.
We had with like Oval is supposed to be in India, mini FIM GP is there, but again, the cost to participate in that is astronomical.
Hmm.
Okay, and you can't um, justify spending that much for a country where economics and is so core to our principles when you're coming to purchasing a vehicle. We look for value rather than experience more so. And plus it's a hard topic right now, and it's this thing, convincing parents is a big issue. So when no parent wants to send their 4-year-old or 5-year-old to ride a motorcycle, especially even if it's controlled, whatever the gear, and mishaps happen. And that is where motorsports as a sport is far different from any other kind of sport, right? Because contact sport, yes it is, but the serious loss of life is
It's a very serious thing in motorsports.
is something that we can't escape it.
Yeah,
like
can't
we
escape
know
it.
what happened.
Yeah, we're
right?
going to discuss about that towards the end of the video.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to infrastructure and how India is slowly spending money into motorsports. Like there's MMRT. Like let's talk about tracks.
Okay.
We've got MMRT,
Yeah.
we've got Kari, and
Yeah.
we've got BIC. I remember being at MMRT first, seeing Kari second, and then seeing BIC at the very end, like the third.
Which is your favorite track of them all?
I honestly like MMRT.
Yeah.
Because it's fast, it's still got heartbreaking zones, it's very flowing.
It's a racer's track.
It's a racer's track. It's just very nice. And I think through the years, I've seen it become what it is today. And the authorities are also spending money on different things around the track. So there's a rally course that goes around the track. I believe they're also making something like a small go-kart track on the other side, or something to do with flat track. We aren't sure yet, but they're utilizing that space and just investing in a lot more motorsport activities, which I think is great. But after being to MMRT and Kari, when I saw BIC for the first time, I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. Like the scale, the quality, the pits, the tarmac, the runoff areas, just the width of the track, like a F1 grade.
Yeah.
I was completely blown away. And I think that is maybe say creme de la creme. But that is also something that I desire to see with everything in the country today. And not just that part of motorsports. I also want to see a lot more racetracks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of the problems that are associated with motorsports, they come down to cost.
Obviously.
Which is your favorite racetrack?
MMRT. MMRT. It is. And when you said that BIC, grand appearance, everything, to see the fall of that track is so gut-wrenching, and it pains me. Okay.
Yeah.
But having still said that, that is a track I don't quite like to ride on it, because it's more of a car track rather than a bike track. So whenever we've gotten a chance, the bikes are usually puny, and you're just sitting on the back straight like this for God knows when. But yeah, MMRT is the perfect example of how you should run a track in India, right? Because it not only serves as motorsport purpose, it also is sold as for testing, right? So you get a lot of manufacturers coming in, putting in that time, effort, and proving their products, right? So if the same thing was to happen at, say, Curry or at BIC, right, you would see a lot more activity happening at the track. The track maintenance would be better. Plus, BIC being that grand track, let me be frank, they became a bit greedy. Okay. They thought they could charge some prices which were frankly not reasonable. Let's put it that way. And so now you can see what all is happening. I'm glad that the UP government is taking an initiative and improving the tracks facilities, but how sustainable will it be in the future remains to be seen.
Yeah. One more thing that's is sort of a wild card here is the arrival of MotoGP. There's still a big question mark over it. And don't be alarmed. I mean, all indications and the people that I've spoken to are saying that work is in progress and we will see it happen. But when you read stuff on social media, especially from journalists that have been an integral part of MotoGP, and you read them and you read their tweets, and you sort of doubt if it's going to happen. But with the work that's going on, with whatever is happening, with whatever I am hearing, it will happen. And that's going to be a great thing. That's going to be a great boost. The problem with F1 back in the day was taxation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were charged with entertainment tax rather than sports tax.
Not only that.
That was one part of the, or rather one big part of the story.
There were two big parts. So entertainment tax, as you said, that was the biggest thing. Second biggest thing was the customs. The customs, the cars and everything, they were treated not as sporting equipment or anything. They were treated as vehicles. So Carne and Cyrus will be much better person to explain this to you. But the teams ended up shelling out so much money, and they didn't recover that same money, which was supposed to be kept as deposit. So what impetus are you giving a sport to come to your country and grow it? Because we have a lot of F1 fans in India, right? We have a lot of MotoGP fans in India. We have some other sports also, some other motorsports also. There are a few, but these two are the pinnacle, right? And what has the country done so far to help bring these sports to India? Now the UP government is doing it to bring MotoGP, and hopefully it will be termed as sport and get sport tax, not entertainment tax. But even then, you see the ticket prices, right? They are European level ticket prices. They are not accessible Asian level ticket prices. In fact,
what's the spectrum?
It
starts at, I think, 2,000 or something.
That is a day. That's one day. So
correct.
If you're looking at a weekend pass, it's 8,000. But 8,000 is still the picnic stand, which is like turn two, where all the grassy where you can barely see any action. So if you really want to see a good, this thing is like turn 4 of BSC, where you can see virtually turn 5. You can see the parabola. You can see the bikes coming into the grandstand, and you can see the whole length of the big straight, which is where Moto 3 is going to be epic to watch rather than MotoGP. But spending that, it's like around 16 to 25,000 rupees for a weekend, right? Which this is European level money. Okay, if you go to Thailand is far more accessible, far more enjoyable, and the way the track has been designed is that wherever you sit on the track, wherever, yes, you can see the entire track. You can see the entire race. So you're not missing out on any action.
But it's also a fairly smaller track than BIC. That's possibly one of the reasons why you can see. And I think the layout, as you said, it's like straight.
But the
technical.
But the second part of the track
is so good. Yeah. Sector 3 and 4 is super.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. So we have spoken about the things that are, let's say a problem with Indian motorsports, but I also want to give a fair share to the good things that are happening in India. Like the arrival of MotoGP is one thing. FIM Mini GP series is another. And just people taking a lot more interest. Even as parents, I think one of the things that's really helping parents get their kids into motorsports is broadcasting. It's not the biggest or not the best broadcasting system that we have, but we still have a broadcasting system. Even if it's YouTube, even if it's Facebook. And I think social media has also helped a lot of this. You see a racer with some nice goggles and actually going out and winning championships. It puts out a very positive influence on everybody who's a part of this. And again, it's something that will take time. And I hope it just someone hits the fast forward button instead of just hitting play and taking it easy and slowly.
But you also got to realize that Indians being exposed to performance motorcycling, right? It's still a relatively new phenomenon. Okay, the CBZ and the Pulsars and the Charismas all came in towards the middle of 2000s.
Correct.
Right? So from there to now, we were still racing RX 100s and stuff in the early 2000s. Okay, two-strokers were dead 10 years prior to that. So you have to give time for that evolution to happen. But my thing is, we've got the KTM 390s, we've got the RR 310s, we've got Ninja 300s, 400s.
You know, the one motorcycle that I feel changed motorsports? It's the R15.
Yeah. So
the first gen. Yeah.
So R15, obviously. So these, we have these 300s, 400s. We need to progress.
Yeah.
Once the championship progresses to that, then you can aspire to go even further. Then you can see the tracks that are there no longer say fit the bill. So then we have a few more tracks coming up. Hopefully they cater to that, right? So, and it's not just in track racing. You look at dirt. We only have the X-Pulse. We had the Impulse, and people are still racing on Impulses. But we only have the X-Pulse as a thing where I can go buy, fit it with the rally kit and do racing
Straight
with it if I want to.
Straight away.
Okay. Yeah. If I want to get some specialized equipment, I am shelling out at the minimum 3 lakh rupees for a Kawasaki 140 or something.
KX or something.
KLX or KX, whatever.
Like that,
for a 140. And that is a decent competition machine for a adult racing. Teen racing and everything, you have 110s and all. But adult racing, right? 3.5 lakh rupees. And then maintenance of a motocross machine is not done in kilometers.
Maintenance. Yeah, it's done
not
through
done
hours.
In kilometers. It's done in hours.
You have a
so
timer
you have
there.
A timer.
Oh, yeah. And it's crazy. Yeah.
But
that's the and actually, yeah, man. I also feel it's more to do with accessibility. You know, if I wish there was like a Suzuki or a Honda with a CRF.
Okay. TVS. Why haven't we got an adventure motorcycle from them? Right? They've been to Dakar. They've been the kings of Indian rallying as well as supercross. Where is our adventure motorcycle?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good ask, actually. That's a really good ask. Yeah.
Where is our adventure motorcycle?
Yeah. They're coming up with a naked motorcycle, is what we know. But an adventure motorcycle, see, it'll be a matter of developing something on the GS platform, which is essentially platform sharing, but a rebranded TVS.
Correct.
A rebranded BMW in the form of a TVS. But there's no clarity on that yet, unfortunately. Hope it happens soon, or maybe something that is completely fresh off the line, like a 450. Because that space is also bubbling and steaming. And
we know what's coming in the 450.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening. I also want to give credit to manufacturers. One obviously is TVS, but back in the day, there was also Yamaha and Honda doing one-make championships. That was a good starting point. Or even today, if you're interested in, say, a one-make championship, and if you're young enough to enter that championship, it's a very good starting point. You pay a nominal fee. You do your basic investment in terms of safety gear and flights and all of those logistics. But you still get to participate in a national championship that takes place across, I think, 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah.
And the entry fee is what is making things accessible. You're getting a motorcycle, a race. It's not the fastest motorcycle, but it's a decent start. And I think that's where I also want to give credit to all these manufacturers. Yamaha's unfortunately pulled out. Honda has also
still there, but they are not racing with the road going bikes.
Correct.
We have the NSFRs.
Correct.
With only for the youngsters.
Yeah, but they had the 150s.
Yeah.
Which was a one make, which was great.
250s.
250s. Again, it was great. So that, and I think a lot of the manufacturers have also figured out that the return on investment is just not there. TVS, I understand because it's everything is to do with racing and the products sort of reflect that. But for Yamaha and Honda, you've got a different take on that?
What is KTM's motto?
Great point. I think that's a great point. It's everything to do with racing.
Ready
to race. Yeah,
race.
Absolutely.
Any KTM bike you start up, it says ready to race. Why have you only got a cup that has spanned over like one weekend from KTM? Why isn't KTM seriously putting their money where their mouth is and actually taking the charge in the national championship, right? Because we know that the RC390 is a solid motorcycle.
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, it's the record holder for that class, if I'm not wrong.
Right? It's a solid motorcycle, okay? But because they are not getting the investment, the team who are running the KTM RC390s are not getting the investments.
Correct.
They are getting certain backing. So like in case if you want parts from Austria, they're getting that. But they're not being fully sponsored or backed by the company. The KTM team as such is not there. Similarly, Yamaha, like you said, Rajni and his team are running R3s.
Yeah.
And they're running souped up R3s.
Yeah.
But that's not invested by Yamaha.
That's a private investment.
That's invested by Rajni and his sponsors.
Yes.
The only teams who are doing it is TVS. And they are also benefiting from doing the Asia One Make Championship, right?
Yeah.
ARRC, they're 310s.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to put in that effort into the sport, return on investment cannot be everything, right?
You have to be there, especially if your motto is related to racing.
Yeah.
And I think that's missing. And I think that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Especially when you have motorcycles that can actually do it.
Yeah. Let's go to cars.
Yeah.
Okay. Volkswagen was there. Volkswagen sort of got the one make championship, and they sort of helped the sport in those golden, say, 7 or 8 years, right? But when they wanted to enter the national championship, they faced a little bit of an issue. And this was not primarily down to them. It was also down to the other competitors who were still running S-Teams and Balenos and whatnot.
So it was not the same class.
Yeah. Cities. So because the guys who are running these older vehicles had pumped in so much money that it was almost 10 times the cost of the car, right? To make the cars race worthy and seriously race worthy. And Volkswagen would just, if they would to just turn up with a regular car with minimal this thing, that Volkswagen would have spanked them. So that is where you need the sport, or you need the organizers to grow, so that allowing newer generation of vehicles to enter the sport, right? Where have we seen that?
Yeah.
Have we seen, say, a hatchback championship like the i20 is there? Why? Then what else does come? Maruti or anything? Why aren't these manufacturers getting into the sport? Right.
So Maruti played a massive part in the Raid the Himalaya.
Yeah. Cross countries. They were the title sponsor for Raid the Himalaya, for Desert Storm and Dakshin Dare.
Correct.
But even then, because they were the title sponsors, no other manufacturers entered.
Correct.
Right? Because they felt like it was a Maruti event. Right? Where manufacturers need to seriously step in and put in effort is by building cars or bikes that are going to help the motorsport grow. Like you see with Mahindra and Gaurav Gill. Gaurav Gill is perhaps India's best driver. Okay, hands down. Track or off-road, hands down, he is the best driver. Right? He has taken the fight to the Europeans and shown them that what is possible. But again, he's just Gaurav Gill.
Yeah.
Where is the next person? Right? Why are we still racing CDRs and Polos in the country? Yeah, Polo has been discontinued now. Where are the newer cars?
Yeah. I think I also, since you have brought up the topic of talent and Gaurav Gill, I also want to talk about some really talented individuals that have come out of this country.
This person.
Yeah, that's one for sure. But I see. Let's talk about cars first. I'm not too much into cars, but Gaurav Gill, for example, is one. You have Jehan Daruwala,
Yeah.
who's represented India on an international level. I still don't know why he's not got that F1 seat yet. Maybe in a couple of years is when we'll see him there.
I don't think so.
Is it because of money?
I think Jehan has. I'm sad to say this, but Jehan has sort of passed that age or this thing where F1 teams are seriously considering to pick him up, right?
Okay.
Okay. That is also down to Jehan not getting enough track time, car time, seat time. But now it's his 4th year in the Formula 2 championship.
Right.
Okay. Whereas typically, if you are going to be picked up by a Formula 1 team, you are usually picked up in the second or at the most third year,
yeah.
right? Jehan used to be part of the Red Bull Driver Academy, and that is a cutthroat academy. Like we've seen what they've done with Nick De Vries, and they've just kicked him out and brought in Ricciardo. But that is how the level of motorsports is there. So, like, until unless you're part of a team, you're not going to get the support from the top, and it's expensive going to Europe, right? The amount of investment that Jehan and his father have had to make is seriously
a lot.
You can't think of it, okay? And he was backed initially by the Sahara, Force India, Talent, whatever cup hunt was there, right? But then, of course, you know what happened with the Sahara, Force India and stuff. So, so that's where Jehan lost out a bit. But again, coming to the fact, Jehan is not the only guy. You have Kush Maini, Arjun Maini, okay? Both of these. Now, Arjun, again, he was, say, senior to Jehan. He also tried his luck, but didn't quite make it through. Then you had
Kush. Narayan Karthikeyan.
Kush is right now still there, so he's a good this thing. Hopefully, he gets the right moves in Formula 2 next year so that he improves and he can be the guy to get into Formula 1. Narain was the first guy to get into Formula 1, and Narain was a talented driver. He was actively involved in Indian motorsports. He helped a lot. But again, he comes from a lineage of motorsports family, right? So his father was a motorsports person in India, right? Naren is setting up a track in India as well. Then you look at Karun. Karun also went to F1. Karun is now
part of the broadcasting, commentary team. Yeah.
But he also comes from a motorsport family.
Correct.
Vicky Chandok, who is currently one of the heads at MMRT.
MIC.
Okay. Okay. His father, Indu Chandok, was the founding member of the Madras Motorsports Club, which sort of owns and runs the track, right? So you see where these guys
people
are coming from. Yeah?
Absolutely.
And you had Aditya Patel, Arman Ibrahim, Rayo Banaji. Okay. These are naming a few. But stamping their authority on the international stage is very difficult. Unless and until. Now, this was a debate which I had with Cyrus a long time ago on one of those special nights. So, Indian authorities are not encouraging talent to grow. So, my thought is, in case if you're seriously considering it, no, go to Europe, cut your teeth there, and the clear example of that is Harit Noah. Harit. He is lucky, or he's born with a European, I think, mother. Yeah. So
mother's from Europe.
Mother's from Europe. So he was privileged enough to train in Europe. But that is where you see the level of difference between Harit and some of the other TVS factory riders. Right.
That's true. In fact, his place of finish a couple of years ago at the Dakar is testament to that. No Indians ever done it. Of course, we have had CS Santosh go and Arvind KP represent India at the Dakar. But to get to that level of finish, it was a top 20 finish, which is incredible. Incredible. So like you said, when people go to a place where a particular sport is appreciated and encouraged, you will see better training facilities, you will see better colleagues, you will see better trainers, better teachers, better equipment, all of those things, and that matter a lot. Like Emmanuel Jebraj, who is a part, or say, let's say he's a team principal of Team Gusto Racing, who handles TVS, and a lot of you
KTM.
guys must have seen him in the RC Cup series that we did with KTM. And Emmanuel's son is in Europe. His trainer is Alonso Lopez, who is actually one of the top riders in Moto2 today. And he trains under him and he's participating in the championships there.
Yeah.
It'll take a while for him to get better and get competitive, but he is a part of that culture today. It involves expense, it involves a lot of sacrifices, but at the end of the day, when you look at the return on investment there, it's a lot more than what you see in India. But you have talent in India that's homegrown talent. That's CS Santosh, there's Arvind KP, you have Jagan Kumar, you have KY Ahmed in the world of track racing.
Sarath.
Rajiv
Setu.
Setu. Dude,
Rajni.
like so
Dilip
good.
Lalwani.
Yeah, Dilip Lalwani.
Vijay Singh Rajputana.
Absolutely.
Yeah. These guys are killers out on the
Like
track.
the fastest lap at BIC is by Dilip Lalwani.
Yeah.
One of us, yeah?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And he's super competitive and he's now a part of the DRE Academy.
He was my trainer at DRE this year in Malaysia.
I feel
Yeah.
so happy seeing people go far, and especially Indian racers. Like I've seen Rajiv Setu race.
Yeah.
And PowerDrift was the only let's say the only digital publication that was invited to one of the rounds for ARRC. That was in Australia. So we had to go to the Bend Motorsport Park, which is a good 200 kilometers away from Adelaide. And I got to see him race and it was amazing. Like an Indian go around. And there was Senthil Kumar, if I'm not wrong, with him. So those two riders just representing India, Aidamitsu Honda team, it was so good. And even when I think you were with me in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
For Dakar.
Yeah.
And to just see Harit go by, it was so, I mean, I get great pleasure in that.
So the best thing was when both of us were at Dakar, like you can track the riders where they are on the stage. So where we were at a particular point, we used to track when CS was going through, when Harit was going through at that point in time, when the Hero bikes were going through and the Sherco bikes.
Correct.
Because at that time, I don't think so Arvind was there.
No, he wasn't there. No.
Arvind had, I think he had moved on from racing at that point in time, or moved on from the team. So I think they were only these two. So 4 Shercos, 4 Heroes. And unfortunately, the day after we left was Paulo. He had passed away. Yeah. So, but yeah, just the sheer thing to see these guys going flat out at 140 kmph is insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I really want to ride one of the race bikes. Both.
Yeah.
Like a Sherco. I rode the Sherco for a bit at the factory. But it was a very short stint.
No.
But I really want to ride one of the race bikes at a track.
Okay.
I've never gotten a chance. You did in Thailand.
Yeah.
Thailand, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
So I was thankful that I got to ride the RR 310 One Make Championship. And
How is it different?
So I have ridden the stock RR 310. I've ridden the BTO RR 310. I've ridden the India One Make Championship RR 310. And now I've ridden the Asia ARRC One Make. That India One Make is demanding. It wants you to put in effort.
India race bike.
India race bike. I've not ridden the India National Championship bike.
Correct.
That is separate. But India One Make Championship bike, it's demanding, okay? And you can't grip onto it well because it's got very slippery panels and no time grips or anything. But when I jumped onto that One Make Championship bike, it's freaking light.
ARRC.
It's so tight, compact. But it was easier to ride. Okay. It revs like 13,000 RPM. Okay. And it's super peaky. So I rode it at the Chang circuit. So first straight, second straight, third straight, you're just pinned. But then you come into the stadium section and then you drop the bike. And it's so stable.
Yeah.
And it's so forgiving, easy. And you just feel that why aren't we getting this to race in India? Right? Yeah, that is something where...
But I think it's also using components that are really top spec. Yeah.
But help the sport grow.
Yeah. I think that pretty much sums up what we wanted to say and how we feel about motorsports in India. But there's also another part of motorsports, which is the part.
Risk.
It's the risk. I mean, let's
Yeah.
put it that way. Let's call it the risk.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, or let me not say unfortunately. Let me just say that motorsports is risky.
Yeah.
It is a sport that will give you the thrill, but it's also a sport that has the side of agony.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go flat, like Isle of Man for that matter, the average number of deaths that you have,
Every year there's at least 1.2
something like
deaths.
that. Yeah,
That is the death count of a motorsport event.
it, and it still takes place. And
Yeah.
when we look at it from the other side of the screen and we see motorcycles go by at 300 kilometers per hour for like kilometers,
Mm.
we get happy. But I can't I don't know, man. I can't be in the shoes of their families and understand the kind of anxiety that they go through.
Uh, so if you see MotoGP usually, yeah, whenever Mark Marquez comes on screen, they immediately cut to his father,
Yeah.
and has this,
The
this,
stick that he
this. Okay.
Yeah.
Initially, he only used to do this for Mark,
Hmm.
but now his brother
Alex.
Alex is also gone there. So they're doing double crosses, and you can see that father how much agony he's going through
Yeah.
with every single. And Honda, being Honda right now,
Is not the
suffering,
best bike.
is
Yeah.
suffering. So
Yeah.
you can see him suffer like how Mark is suffering. And I'm not the biggest Mark Marquez fan. I appreciate what he does, but I can see what the father is being put through.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a lot of emotions. Yeah.
And then you look at something closer to home. Like, I'm not going to bring up the recent topic just as yet. We had crashes from Santosh
Yeah.
where he suffered a big time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
He was literally unconscious for that time period. We had crashes from Arvind,
Hmm.
okay, which was seriously career threatening, right? We had Harit crashing on his first Dakar,
Hmm.
right? He came back with a swollen eye.
Do you
and
remember that conversation at the bivak
Yes,
with Harit?
yes.
Yeah.
I have the recording.
I
with
get
me.
goosebumps when I bring
Yes.
it up.
Yeah. So I've seen that. I've seen Ashish crashing.
Hmm.
Yeah, but Ashish thankfully escaped with minor injuries on those stages.
Hmm.
But what Ashish did, he was racing in a far more difficult category,
Malemoto.
Malemoto, which means you have no steam, no support, nothing. You are your own mechanic.
You're your own rider, your own team, your own mechanic, your everything.
Everything
Yeah.
is
Your own nutritionist, your own cook, everything.
So I have seen there. And then you flip it to the cars. Gaurav Gill has had major accidents, right? Uh, people in car racing, you see the Formula Series in India. One misturn and people are getting T-boned left, right, and center. And injuries as such are mitigated to a great extent. But we cannot escape the fact that death is possible.
Yeah, sure. Even in our careers,
Yeah.
like we are in a high risk job.
Yeah.
And when you're on a motorcycle, no matter how safe you are, there are other elements
Yeah.
involved. And so I completely agree with that. I want to talk a little bit about Harit Noah's incident. And I remember it was, I think, day 1 or day 2, and we were sitting. So there's like a convoy of cars that go together inside the desert, and you see you can first hear the bikes, then you spot one, and then there's a cloud of dust, and then everything sort of follows. And I was tracking Harit and seeing where he was, and he never turned up until about 2 hours later, and I see a yellow and blue, and he was back then he was with Sherco TVS, and I see a yellow and blue jersey, and I can't see his light on, the headlight on, and as he gets closer to our camp, the headlight's missing, and it's obvious that he's had a really bad crash. And then we meet him at the bivak a couple of days later, or on the
Yeah,
very
same
same day, and his eyes swollen shut. He's got some, I think, hairline fracture on his wrist, or some like a couple of injuries, and he's still there. And what are you going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm going to race. And that's the crazy bit. You have to be a little crazy to be in motorsports. In a car, on a motorcycle, no matter what the race is or what the genre of racing is, you have to be a little crazy in the head. And I think with this, I also want to talk about Shreyas. Shreyas unfortunately had a really bad accident, a crash at MMRT. By the time this video goes out, it's going to be a couple of weekends. And Shreyas was 13 years old, and unfortunately, he passed away. And it was really unfortunate to see something like this happen in our country, where we are slowly getting better with safety. I'm a little stoic with stories like this. I don't portray emotions as well as other, or not well, but just as others do. So my take is a little different. But one of the points that popped up was people should not get their kids into motorsports this early, and I disagree with that, because if you want to get to a level where you want to see India at an international stage, you have to start early. I don't want to dwell too much into this topic, but I'm curious to know what your take is.
Right now, we'll be a couple of weeks into it. The family is grieving. Okay, they are losing their child who is 13-year-old. Okay, so that is seriously paining, aching. Okay, and at that point in time, people should not come in questioning, okay, whether the kid was wearing the right helmet, was it the right age for him, whether the authorities did it or not, or whatever. That scrutiny can go on later on. Okay, so I am a Liverpool fan. Okay, and one of our biggest tragedies was the Hillsborough tragedy, where 97 of our fans died while attending a football match, and the post-mortem of that incident was that the government didn't do its due diligence with the stadium. At that point in time, the government blamed the fans. They blamed the fans for being rowdy, and that is seriously wrong. Because people who are going to attend such events, they didn't go there with the intention of dying, right? Similarly, Shreyas didn't go into motorsports with the intention of dying. Shreyas knew the risks and whatever is associated with motorsports, but he went there for the thrill. He went there to achieve something, and 100%. He went there to become, say, the next big talent of India. And to lose something like this is a big loss for us. So at this stage, we should refrain from questioning the decisions of the parents or him or
his coaches or just people around him.
Anybody. Let the family grieve. Let the family accept the loss. The chance to do scrutiny comes later. We have all the time in the world to do that.
Correct. Right? Absolutely. And I think I 100% agree with you. But it's something that comes with motorsports, like you said. And, one of the things that really pricks me is that, one, he was 13. Second, he had this description on his Instagram which said, "I'll wave the Indian flag at the MotoGP at a MotoGP podium," or something like that. And I hope someone pops up and honors his name whenever we get to a stage like MotoGP. But Shreyas, you are super talented. I've only heard good things about you, and I hope you rest in peace. And I'm sure motorsports will honor your name in the coming months and the coming years. And I think with that, we sort of sum up our discussion on motorsport. It was a very interesting chat, and and especially from you, because you bring in perspective from your father as well, who's been around for a really long time. In case you don't know who his father is, it's Adil Jal Darukhanawala, who's one of the founding fathers of Indian automotive journalism.
But you know the fact that before he went into journalism, he used to be part of the para team and the Pune Motorsports team. So before MMRT, before Curry, before BIC, whatever, there used to be Sholavaram.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sholavaram. There used to be Juhu Beach, the Juhu races. There used to be Loegaon airport races. And this is where people used to seriously modify everyday machines and go and race.
But these, like Sholavaram, I know was a track. But was Loegaon a track? No.
Yes.
Oh, it was a track. Okay.
The airstrip was converted into a track for a weekend.
Wow. Okay. Superb.
The Juhu there used to be Juhu Airport or something.
No.
Even that was-
Aerodrome.
yeah,
Jew Aerodrome, yeah.
that also used to be converted into a track.
Dude, I would love to have your father and just hear his stories,
You contact him. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, so he used to be part of a team, and they used to take Bajaj scooters, tune them, and take the fight to the Chennai
Motorcycles.
people.
Yeah.
Okay, the guys over here, Aspi Bhat hai na,
Hmm.
okay, Sherry Bhat hai na, other guys from Pune, they used to go together. They used to put their vehicles in trains, and they used to sleep with the bikes in the goods section so that nothing gets damaged to their bikes.
Even Aspi for that matter, I would love to have him on the podcast. Just
Yeah.
hear his Isle of Man stories
So-
and how he got there and all of that.
So that is where motorsports started for India.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's and,
And we
you know
should-
you know the great thing. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but the unfortunate thing, not the good
Yeah.
thing. The unfortunate thing is there was no coverage back in the day, and even
Yeah.
if there was, it was
Yeah.
like a small
Yeah.
section in a newspaper that
Yeah.
a lot of us weren't reading.
Yeah.
Today, social media sort of amped it up,
Yeah.
and I wish we could sort of turn back the clock, take social media back to that day, and it would have been crazy.
So the notion is India has motorsports. Let's not quash it.
Hmm.
Let's not make little of it.
Yeah.
Let's grow it. I know it's not going to be an easy thing. I know it's not going to take an immediate turn in the next 5-10 years. It's going to be a steady process. But let's get into future.
Bigger and better things. Yeah.
Why not look at electric racing?
Hmm.
Because that is where supposedly the world is headed. Why not? Why isn't Torque or Ultraviolet? Ultraviolet is getting ready with a program which we saw at Expo. That is something which keenly interests us. And that
I mean,
is
you have
where-
Moto E, but it's again.
internationally. Why
Yeah.
why
In
can't
India-
we? Why can't we get ready for get talents to go to Moto E?
That's a good thought, actually.
Yeah.
There was a funny meme on this, by the way, where you have like Motorsports today, and it goes, and then you have like electric going, wee, 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 wee.
Not unless you are racing an Ola S1 Pro. No. Okay,
But
that's a
anyway,
different topic.
that's pretty much our podcast for today, our episode for today.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed it, drop a like. If you want us to get another guest, please drop those names in the comment section. If you want us to talk about another topic, then drop that topic in the comment section as well. Share it with your friends who are interested in motorsports and would want to know more about the world of motorsports, the good and the bad and everything about it. Before we actually end it, one song for the playlist from your end.
I'm a Bawa. So
Okay. I have to check.
Queen,
Okay.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Wow. Okay. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
I am going to take. I'm going to say Spun by Flipside. It was such a 90s song. Spun by Flipside. So those links or even the entire playlist link is going to be in the description. So check that out. We have also had songs from our previous podcasts. So
Yeah.
go through the playlist. And thank you so much for watching. Any last word from your end?
Help the sport grow. We need it.
Good thought. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Bye.